Consider now Enceladus, Saturn's icy moon, one of the most promising places to look for life outside Earth. Scientists have just detected the last of the 6 necessary ingredients for its formation, phosphorus. This rarest element has been discovered in an ocean on Enceladus. Phosphorus, a rare element, helps make the soil fertile on Earth, but the concentration of this mineral in the hidden seas on the distant moon might be from 100 to 1,000 times greater than in the oceans of our home planet. It might be because Enceladus' ocean is rich in carbonates, just like soda water, and this soda water is likely to dissolve the phosphates in the moon's rocks. The new discovery also suggests that on other icy moons of Saturn, like Titan, the waters may be loaded with phosphorus too. Why are scientists so excited about this mineral? Phosphates, which are compounds that contain phosphorus, are crucial components of life on Earth. DNA, RNA, and cell membranes contain them, but among those 6 elements required for life, which are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, phosphorus is the least common. In 2004, the Cassini space probe entered the dust from the second outermost ring of Saturn, called the E-ring. It's made up of ice grains from Enceladus geysers, and while studying these ice grains examined by Cassini's cosmic dust analyzer, researchers detected phosphorus. Enceladus is the 6th largest moon of Saturn. It's not really large, only 314 miles across. This makes the space body small enough to fit inside Arizona. We should try that sometime. Interestingly, when the Cassini space probe first arrived at Saturn, astronomers thought that Enceladus was going to be a frozen ball of ice. But then, surprise, surprise, they spotted plumes of icy particles and water vapor erupting from geysers on the moon's surface. It became clear that there was a global ocean between the moon's rocky core and its icy shell. The same researchers previously discovered that Saturn's moon might be home to complex organic molecules too. Before, scientists thought phosphates could be trapped within the rocky cores of Enceladus and similar worlds. That's why the newest work, which hints that phosphates might also be abundant in the ocean, came as a surprise. Researchers examined 305 ice grains from Saturn's E-ring and found that 9 of them contain phosphates. These results were clear and unmistakable, and it's very important because some time ago, phosphine, a compound of hydrogen and phosphorus, was believed to exist in the clouds of Venus. But no one has managed to find any evidence to support this theory. On Enceladus, there's no controversy, phosphates do exist there. Astronomers consider Europa one of the most promising places in the solar system to search for new life forms, all because this moon has a huge saltwater ocean with a depth of 40 to 100 miles. Yes, it is hidden under a layer of ice that is estimated to be from 10 to 20 miles thick, but it is still potentially habitable. Astronomers claim that plumes of water erupt from cracks in the ice shell and release the contents of the moon's ocean into space. Of course, it's going to be challenging for any life-seeking mission to access such a deep environment. On the bright side, as we are, scientists already have some evidence that there are way shallower pools that probably lie much closer to the surface of the moon. They might be located even less than 1 mile under the ice, and there are 2 great things about this news. First of all, it boosts the odds of life existing on Europa, and second, if it's true, it can make it easier for future missions to find these life forms, if there are any. Then we've got Titan, Saturn's largest moon. It's smaller and has lighter gravity than Earth, but it still reminds us of our planet. Like on Earth, nitrogen dominates its atmosphere. Titan is the only other world in our solar system with lakes and rivers. These water bodies are made of hydrocarbons, methane and ethane. There's also a subsurface ocean of water, but it's located very deep down, and no one has figured out yet if this ocean makes contact with anything under the surface. If it does, it could provide fuel for life after mixing with complex chemistry on the surface. But Enceladus and the other icy moons aren't the only places in the solar system that might host or once hosted life. In 2003, Mars Express, a spacecraft launched by the European Space Agency, discovered methane in the atmosphere of Mars. On our planet, the biggest part of this gas in the atmosphere is produced by living creatures, for example, by cattle digesting food and emitting gas. However, scientists think that methane was stable in the Martian atmosphere for about 300 years. Then in 2006, the methane almost entirely vanished from the red planet, and it happened 600 times faster than the researchers' model accounted for. The question is, what or who generated the gas, and where did it go? Another Martian mystery is microbes that might be sleeping beneath the surface of Mars. There, they might have been protected from the harsh radiation coming from space for millions of years. Scientists simulated the conditions on Mars in a lab to check if it could possibly be true, and they were amazed to find out that bacteria could easily survive in such conditions for 280 million years. That's a long shelf life. This means that if life existed on Mars, we could find the evidence in the planet's subsurface by drilling into the Martian soil. Right now, there is no flowing water on Mars, and cells or spores would simply dry out, plus the frozen temperature is similar to that of dry ice, in other words, it's deeply frozen. Let it go. And still, there could be 6 types of bacteria and fungi living underground on the red planet. The most likely of them is nicknamed Conan the bacterium, due to its tough nature. Well, I guess time will show. Anyway, if we don't find life outside Earth in our solar system, we could probably look for it on exoplanets, which is what planets outside our star system are called. Some of them look very promising. The closest to Earth exoplanet is Proxima Centauri b. It's a mere 4.2 light-years away from Earth. Recently, astronomers have found out that this world might resemble Earth even more than they previously thought. It's just 177% more massive than our home planet. It orbits a star that is dimmer and less massive than the Sun. Proxima Centauri b is in the middle of the star's habitable zone. This means that the chances of liquid water and life might exist on the planet. It looks like the exoplanet is tidally locked with its parent star. One of its sides faces the star at all times, and the other is always in darkness. Scientists haven't figured out yet whether the planet has an atmosphere. It's traveling too close to its star and completes one orbit within 11 Earth days. The radiation from the star might be pulling the planet's air away. If this is the case, Proxima Centauri b isn't likely to have liquid water on its surface. Gliese 832c is 16.2 light-years away from Earth. In the cosmic scheme of things, it's a stone's throw away. This exoplanet is 5 times as massive as Earth and travels much closer to its parent star. That's why a year on this planet lasts a mere 36 days. But since this star is a red dwarf, much cooler and dimmer than the Sun, Gliese 832c gets as much light and heat as our planet. At the same time, it's still unclear if it's similar to Earth. The planet probably has a much thicker atmosphere that creates a runaway greenhouse effect. This phenomenon occurs when a planet absorbs more heat from its host star than it can release back into space. This means that Gliese 832c is more likely to resemble scorching hot Venus rather than the relatively cool Earth. Hey, I'm cool with that. Enceladus, Saturn's ocean-covered moon, spews water into space non-stop. The liquid leaves the insides of the moon through fractures in its icy crust. In the mid-2000s, the Cassini spacecraft analyzed the composition of these jets and spotted molecules that included ammonia and carbon dioxide. Both compounds are crucial for the existence of life on Earth, but recently scientists have made another analysis of the Cassini samples, and this study has revealed the great chemical diversity of Enceladus. It makes this small icy moon one of the top candidates for finding life in the solar system. In an attempt to find out the true chemical makeup of the moon, researchers at NASA examined the data collected by Cassini. But then another question might arise: if we found the conditions where life can originate and even thrive, can't? This fact might already be proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, doesn't it? If life is abundant in the universe, then why haven't we come across other species yet? The answers to this paradox vary from optimistic to downright terrifying. It might be because we haven't been looking long enough, or maybe we haven't been emitting enough traceable signatures for other civilizations to find us. Perhaps no species has ever made it to the point where they could come into contact with other civilizations. There's also the frightening dark forest hypothesis, a theory claiming that loads of alien civilizations exist throughout the universe, but they are all silent and hostile. They try to maintain their undetectability for fear of getting destroyed by another unfriendly species. Following this hypothesis, we can presume that any spacefaring civilization must view other intelligent forms of life as an inevitable threat, and the best course of action is to hide its existence altogether. This makes the cosmic electromagnetic spectrum eerily quiet, with no evidence of any intelligent extraterrestrial life. In this way, the universe can be compared to a dark forest filled with armed hunters wandering among trees like ghosts. Look up and find that little yellow dot. That's Titan. It's Saturn's largest moon and the second largest moon in our whole solar system. It might be the only place in our solar system where there's liquid water besides Earth. Plus, it has an atmosphere that serves as a shield against solar radiation and cosmic rays, just like Earth. If life was a house, Titan would have a lot of the bricks you'd need to build it. Strap in, you're heading over there. It takes a long time to get to Titan, but thanks to the magic of technology, here it is, a bit bigger than our moon and a whole lot heavier. It's even bigger than Mercury, but its gravity is still pretty weak. On Titan, you'll feel 7 times lighter than on Earth. At the local gym back home, you can lift 150 pounds, on Titan, you can lift more than 1,000. Looking good. The surface of Titan is mostly made up of ice. It has small mountains, craters, and a few cryovolcanoes. These are basically the same as regular volcanoes, but instead of lava, they spit out water, ice, ammonia, and methane. There are lakes and clouds that resemble Earth's landscapes, but here, there's one tiny difference: everything is covered in fog, and sometimes it hails frozen methane. On Earth, we use methane as fuel because it burns, but on Titan, there's no oxygen, so you can't get a fire going. No oxygen also means you need to put on an oxygen mask, but you don't have to wear a whole spacesuit like on our moon. Titan has a stronger atmosphere, but you packed a sweatshirt, right? It's going to get pretty cold soon, like -300 degrees Fahrenheit cold. The coldest it ever got on Earth was -128 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was right at the South Pole. It's so cold because Titan is so far from the Sun, almost 900 million miles away. The dense fog and atmosphere stop the Sun's rays from warming the surface. It sounds extreme, but life can survive almost anywhere. Take the bacteria Deinococcus radiodurans, it can survive radiation and extremely low temperatures. It even survived a whole year in outer space on the outside of the International Space Station. Titan would be a piece of cake compared to that, especially if we drill down a bit. Many scientists believe there's a whole ocean under the surface of Titan. Saturn's gravity gives Titan's core a little heat boost, and there's ammonia in that ocean. It's like Titan's version of antifreeze. As long as the water stays liquid, life's got a pretty strong chance of success. So, what's down there? Scientists have actually found real evidence that Titan might already have life on it. Here, check out this microscope. This is C3H2. It was discovered by a weird group of antennae in the desert in Chile. They used 66 antennas, all pointed at the same place in the sky. This C3H2 molecule can act as a building block for DNA, the code of life. Some people think that these molecules were around on our planet billions of years ago, just when life began. Scientists also checked it out firsthand with a probe that actually landed on Titan. It turns out those desert antennas were right. Titan shot to the top of the list of places we could one day live on. Sorry, Mars. NASA has a new project, the Dragonfly mission. They're going to send a drone out there to explore Titan even more. The mission is still about 6 years away, and the rocket will reach Saturn's moon 9 years after that. So, we're going to have to wait a while before we pack up and move to Titan. After the Dragonfly drone lands on Titan's surface, it's going to whiz around like a sort of double helicopter. It will have 8 propellers, each 3 feet wide. Since there's weak gravity, that's more than enough to give the drone good cruising speed. It will be able to fly about 2 miles straight up and take off and land vertically, like a regular helicopter. The main problem with the whole thing is the drone's batteries. Scientists invented a generator that converts thermal radiation energy into electrical energy. One battery charge should be enough for several hours of continuous flight. The Dragonfly is going to carry a lot of research equipment, so it's not like those drones people fly in the park on a Sunday. It's going to weigh about as much as 3 ostriches. It will have 2 drills, a bunch of sensors, a spectrometer to find out what chemicals are lying around, and its own weather channel with a ton of instruments to measure temperature, clouds, and stuff. Like any gadget nowadays, it has a camera on it. Get ready for some beautiful pics of Titan's epic landscape. Nighttime on Titan lasts about 8 Earth days. That's when the drone is going to be relaxing on the surface, recharging, and analyzing samples. That's a long time, but it's actually a good thing. Titan's distance from Earth causes a bit of a problem, a delay in communication. When they send the Dragonfly a signal from mission control, it has to fly halfway across the solar system. It takes over an hour. In contrast, the signal delay to Mars can be as little as 10 minutes, and the signal delay to the Moon is only about a second. Scientists expect Dragonfly to provide more information about whether we can live on Titan or not. Some experts hope to find a primordial soup there, a mush of stuff needed to make life. We had that same soup on Earth about 4 billion years ago, and every single living organism that ever existed evolved from this mush of organic elements. If the Dragonfly project is a slam dunk and Titan does turn out to be habitable, it will have one more mission, to find a nice place for us to settle down. But creating a self-sustaining colony on another planet would definitely be the hardest thing humans have ever done. The first hurdle is energy production, probably some sort of nuclear power plant. Then comes shelter for humans and their machines. Those new Titan buildings will have to protect us from the extreme cold and bad weather. Next, we'll need drinking water and oxygen, so we'll have to invent a way of collecting or engineering both. Then, we'll need greenhouses for growing food. We'd also need to mine fuel for transportation. Luckily, Titan is packed full of methane, which is great for fuel. One huge problem is gravity. Because it's so weak on Titan, whoever lives there could lose a lot of muscle mass, making it hard to work and even just live. And then there are those pesky cryovolcanoes shooting stuff out at random times. Or maybe we'd need a more drastic, daring idea. How about changing Titan's atmosphere so we can breathe on it without having to wear about 100 hats and gloves? To do this, we'd need to terraform Titan's surface for a long time. Titan's atmosphere needs to be enriched with oxygen for us to breathe, and it would be great if it was a bit warmer. The next step is to create a biosphere, which means plants. We could turn Titan into a blooming jungle with plants brought over from Earth, but because of pressure and gravity, they'd look completely different from Earth plants. They might all grow super tall, or maybe they'd all shrink down to mini-size. We really don't know. First things first, we need to make sure that life is even possible on Titan. Scientists recently thought there might be life on Venus. It's sort of the same size as Earth, and scientists even call it Earth's twin sister. They discovered a gas on Venus, phosphine, supposedly made by living organisms. Turns out, it wasn't entirely true. Well, not really. There is some phosphine floating around, but way less than we first thought. Look, science on other planets is super hard, and we're always making mistakes. Imagine a still frozen world, ancient, about 4.5 billion years old, barely heated by the rays of the sun, and covered with a thick layer of ice. This world is smaller than our moon but a bit larger than Pluto. Its name is Europa, the 6th satellite of Jupiter and one of the biggest moons in the solar system. But the coolest thing about this faraway place is that it might host life. Astronomers consider Europa one of the most promising places in the solar system to search for new life forms, all because this moon has a huge saltwater ocean with a depth of 40 to 100 meters. Yes, it is hidden under a layer of ice estimated to be 10 to 20 miles thick, but it is still potentially habitable. Astronomers claim that plumes of water erupt from cracks in the ice shell and release the contents of the moon's ocean into space. Of course, it's going to be challenging for any life-seeking missions to access such a deep environment. On the bright side, scientists already have some evidence that there are way shallower pools that probably lie much closer to the surface of the moon. They might be located even less than a mile under the ice. And there are 2 great things about this news. First of all, it boosts the odds of life existing on Europa, and secondly, if it's true, it can make it easier for future missions to find these life forms if there are any. Interestingly, the new discovery about these shallow pools came about by sheer luck. The scientist leading the research, Riley Kohlberg, accidentally saw a presentation by his colleague, a planetary scientist. That scientist showed a picture of double ridges on the surface of Europa, and Kohlberg remembered that he had seen similar ridges on Earth. While such formations are rare on our planet, they are way more numerous on Europa. Further studies suggested that the ridges on Jupiter's moon might be the result of a specific cycle, similar to that on Earth. In this cycle, liquid water freezes and then thaws inside an ice sheet, which is a rather high-pressure environment. This causes the sheet to move upward over and over again, creating a two-peak structure, or at least that's what happens on Earth. If the processes on Europa are similar, it can prove the presence of shallow waters on the satellite. Of course, the temperature, pressure, and chemistry are very different on Europa, and scientists don't yet know how the ice behaves there. That's why they can't understand how deep or large the water pockets are or how long they need to refreeze. But what is more or less clear is that such under-ice environments on Europa are very likely to be protected from Jupiter's harsh radiation battering the satellite's surface, which in turn increases the chances of life existing on Europa. Now, can we get back to the fact that the ocean on Europa seems to be salty? Red streaks on the satellite's surface might have this color due to their chemical content. They're likely a frozen mixture of water and salts. This is quite unusual because such a composition doesn't match any known substance here on Earth. As for yellow spots on Europa's surface, those might be caused by the presence of sodium chloride, you know this substance as good old table salt. Scientists tried to recreate the conditions on Europa in a lab. They discovered that by combining water, table salt, freezing temperatures, and high pressure, they could get a new kind of solid crystal. This substance might exist both at the bottom of Europa's ocean and on the Moon's surface. But besides this information, researchers are in the dark. Hopefully, we'll find the answers to some of these questions around 2030. That's when a mission called Europa Clipper, which is going to be launched by NASA, will probably reach Europa. The mission is going to have several close flybys and figure out if any form of life can exist on the Moon. The European Space Agency's JUICE, which stands for the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is going to visit Europa in the next couple of years too. But Europa isn't the only place in the solar system that might host or once hosted life. In 2003, Mars Express, a spacecraft launched by the European Space Agency, discovered methane in the atmosphere of Mars. On our planet, the biggest part of this gas in the atmosphere is produced by living creatures, for example, by cattle digesting food. However, scientists think that methane was stable in the Martian atmosphere for about 300 years. Then, in 2006, the methane almost entirely vanished from the red planet, and it happened 600 times faster than researchers' models accounted for. The question is, what or who generated the gas, and where did it go? Another Martian mystery is microbes that may be sleeping beneath the surface of Mars. There, they might have been protected from the harsh radiation coming from space for millions of years. Scientists simulated the conditions on Mars in a lab to check if it could possibly be true, and they were amazed to find out that bacteria could easily survive in such conditions for 280 million years. This means that if life existed on Mars, we could find evidence in the planet's subsurface by drilling into the Martian soil. Right now, there is no flowing water on Mars, and cells or spores would simply dry out. Plus, the surface temperature is similar to that of dry ice, in other words, the surface of the planet is deeply frozen. Still, there could be 6 types of bacteria and fungi living underground on the red planet. The most likely of them is nicknamed Conan the bacterium, due to its tough nature. Well, I guess time will tell. Now, let's move to Venus. In 2020, scientists announced that in the toxic Venusian atmosphere, there was something that might indicate the existence of life. Unfortunately, scientists didn't have any evidence since there was no chance to collect any microbial specimens or snap any pictures of extraterrestrial life. But they claimed that they had discovered a chemical called phosphine there, and it was a big deal. If it wasn't some previously unknown chemistry that was producing this gas, then there could be some kind of microbial life involved in the process. Phosphine is made up of 3 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of phosphorus. This gas is toxic to any terrestrial life form that needs oxygen, including us humans. On our planet, phosphine can be found in places with no or little oxygen, for example, marshes and swamps. The gas is created by complex mixtures of bacteria living there. It can also be produced industrially. Come to think of it, phosphine isn't supposed to be in Venus's atmosphere at all. This gas needs precise pressure and temperature, and tons of hydrogen to form. It wouldn't be all that surprising to find it on Saturn or Jupiter, but on Venus? That's a different story altogether.